Welcome to the Modernize.Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the ColdFusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome back to another Modernize.Die podcast, CFML News Edition, and today is March 31st, 2020. And today we have a very special guest, Brad Wood.
Yes. Hello, I am Brad Wood, and today is my 111th birthday. Oh, wait, no, that's
Happy
Bill
birthday! We got a big old cake for you, Brad. So big we can't even see ourselves anymore.
Oh, my gosh.
Sorry you don't get to eat it. Corona
I've turned 40 today. I'm over the hill. I'm old.
Yep.
Nice.
So he's sharing his special day with us when he could be quarantined at home with his loving family. Oh, yeah, that's probably why. Okay.
Yeah, I'm escaping from them. I got the door shut and barricaded in my office.
Too much fun. Okay, well, thanks to our sponsor, Order Solutions, for making this possible. During this time, we are still doing online trainings, so if you can't make it to on-site trainings and those types of things, with the quarantine, we're still offering on-site training so you can learn from the people who actually made ColdBox, CommandBox, TestBox, ContentBox, etc. So if you guys are looking for training, let us know. We're still working. We're working hard during this time. And so we have trainings available if you'd like. And we also have some pre-recorded stuff as well, packages. So let us know how we can help. And Patreon supporters, we're up to 41% of our fully funded target, our goal for basically fully funding our podcast here. And we've got a couple of new people again this week, so more Patreon supporters. So thank you everybody who's coming out and supporting us. We really appreciate it. And we'll tell you more about our Patreon supporters at the end of the show. So thank you everybody. And if you'd like to chip in, patreon.com/ordersolutions is where our Patreon page is. Find all the cool packages with weird names, and you can support us too.
All it takes is a measly arm and a leg, and you all know you're hoarding one more of those than you really need.
Okay.
23 patrons, nice.
So, news and events.
What's on the docket today, Gavino?
Well, we had a couple of announcements. So, Lucee announced the Lucee 5.3.5.92 final, and also they actually talked about the 5.3.4.80 hotfix that we talked about last week. So, enough dots there. But basically, they released 5.3.5, which is a big update, and then they talked about how they try to sneak out that hotfix and not tell anybody.
Yeah, it is a reminder. The build 77 was the original 5.3.4 release. Build 80 was the one that snuck out a few days later. But as another reminder, there is a build 85 on the 5.3.4 release that, from my understanding, they're not going to release as a stable version. But if there's issues in the 5.3.5 release, and you want to stay with 5.3.4, try out that snapshot 85, because they do have a couple big regressions fixed in that. So yeah, I actually spent half of my day yesterday submitting bug reports to Lucee for regressions that I had found in the 5.3.5 release, unfortunately. Now, I don't know that they're regressions that will necessarily affect other people per se, but they definitely affected me. I was trying to test CommandBox to see if I could do a switch over to 5.3.5, so I may or may not need to hold off on that. We'll see.
Yep. So we have the blog post there linked there as well. So definitely try out those ones and let us know if you get any issues, or let them know so they can take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely important to test those. And CommandBox is obviously with our automated builds now. They're available as they release them.
There is a 5.3.6 snapshot that, from my understanding, is supposed to come out in the release candidate sometime soon. So make sure you are testing the 5.3.6 before it gets released, so we can find the regressions ahead of time. I feel bad that I didn't find all those regressions in 5.3.5 until after it had gone stable, and I started kind of testing it in earnest, and I was like, crap, I should have tested this earlier when it was still in release candidate, but I didn't give it that much testing.
Okay, so a couple of nice releases there for Lucee. Definitely check them out. And next on our list, Adobe 2020 news. So it's because they're talking about no more GUI-based installers for ColdFusion next. So they're talking about that possibility and seeing what we think. Do we need an installer?
The pre-release form. I don't know. I don't personally care at all about those, but I would want them to do that on the add-on services as well. Because like right now, you can't even do a headless install of like the PDF services or the .NET services, and even like set the ports that it uses. It's just impossible. You have to do manual steps. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
it's kind of interesting. Yeah, I wondered myself when I saw it, and I actually had to go find it to make sure seeing it was still public, etc. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. I know they've mentioned it a couple times as an option, and right now when you get it, like that's sort of one of the last things they usually do is tidy that up. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting thought, and they're definitely thinking more modular and everything. But I also like them to make sure that modularity is I guess convenient as well, because I probably can't say, so I'll just leave it at that.
One of the comments here on the Adobe community blog post, somebody just simply typed npm install ColdFusion, which is sort of funny because like you realize you had that. It's called CommandBox box server start CF engine equals Adobe, right? Like that does actually already exist.
Yeah, well, some people don't get out of their box. That's why we got to bring all the boxes to them. So. Okay, so yeah, give your feedback, guys. So that's up on the coldfusion.adobe.com portal, and we'll have the link in the show notes. And if you're watching us live, we have it in the chat as well, so you can go check that out. Just not until after the show, okay? Okay, next on our list, we have a release of cbSecurity 2.3 was released. So Luis locked himself in a room over quarantine and got busy with the cbSecurity update. So he's released a new version with lots of extra goodness, he says. Version focuses more on security context from any layer of ColdBox application. And so this allows you to do some interesting things, which, funnily enough, cbGuard version 4.1.1 was also released, and me and Eric were working on a project where we needed some more stuff for cbGuard, so we added that in, and it looks like cbSecurity's got some pretty similar approaches there. We'll see if Luis copied us exactly or not, but same type of approach. So just trying to make it easier for you to lock down different parts of your app all from one module. So got a few nice enhancements in there in 2.3. So that was released this week. And as I did mention, cbGuard 4.1.1 was released as well. And so, like I said, the big change there was really we have a cbGuard component now. So you can actually, use Wirebox to inject that, and then you can basically have more fluent ways to sort of lock down your app. So with cbGuard, for those of you who don't know, it allows you just to put a little metadata like secured on a handler or on an action, and then basically triggers some security checks. And previously you weren't able to pass in certain information that you might need or whatnot, and so the cbGuard allows you to call it directly and pass in whatever variables you need. So if you need the logged in user, or if you need a certain variable that you get in from the URL scope or something, you can directly pass those things in and call specific actions. So that's a pretty cool little upgrade there. So we also had QB 7.6.0 was released, and that was basically a bunch of small quality life improvements. And so we had several little things again.
Life improvements?
Yeah, quality of life,
Does the module have a life, or does it improve the quality of your life if you use the module?
Both. But yeah, it definitely helped. Like I said, me and Eric have been working on a couple of projects together, pretty close, doing a lot of peer programming to beat the solidarity of lockdown. But we've been doing a lot of cool stuff with QB, and so a lot of this is coming out of there. And some changes to Quick was released last week as well, so pretty cool. But so 7.6.0 of QB is released. So lots of little releases of last week. So good to see things are still moving and still flowing.
Sounded like you said 76, and I wouldn't have been surprised.
Yeah, Brad, we know you and your anti-Eric semantic releases.
I'm not anti, I just make fun of them.
Yeah.
It's like, how long will it take? 6 to 9 months. 69 months? No, 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
Madagascar.
Yep, I love that movie. Okay,
Don't we all?
So Luis has also been working on some ColdBox 6 stuff as well. So he mentioned that he's been doing a lot of work on the REST controller. So if you guys ever use the REST template from ColdBox, there's a REST base handler in there, sort of a controller basically that we have set up. And it works pretty nice. We released it as a module a while back, but then we had to sort of unrelease it because you always have to customize it and always
Luis
tweak it.
didn't like it.
Yeah.
So the REST-based handler, I mean, you can do a REST API with just vanilla ColdBox, no problem, right? I mean, we give you the render data, we give you the ability to control, status codes, all that stuff. The base REST handler just grew out of the REST APIs we were building at Ortus, so we found ourselves building the same stupid stuff over and over again. And so we kind of consolidated it down into this like base handler and like kind of base response object that we just kind of started using for everything. And then we were like, well, hey, we should put this out there so people can use it. The problem was Luis never wanted to like bake it into the framework or make it just be a drop-in module, because the goal was you were supposed to kind of take it and make it your own. You take the base REST handler that you extend with your handlers and you go in and you add your little bits of flair and everything. So it was always kind of a manual thing. It was never like a drop-in deal. But it's kind of gotten to the point where I think it's super flexible. A lot of people are using it, and a lot of people are like, hey, why can't we just be able to say, REST equals true or something like that and have ColdBox just automatically do it. And so that's kind of where we're taking it now is, okay, let's find a way to bake in what we have, keep it extendable so you can still override the little bits you need, but just make it that much easier to tell ColdBox 6, hey, this is going to be a REST handler, and then, the behavior is just automatically switched. I think it's a great move because I think that the convenience little methods that we've baked into the base REST handler and the response object are super handy for your APIs. So I'm pretty excited about that one, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I use it all the time, and I've added up a whole bunch of little helpers in my response object to make my life easier, because I was sick of writing the same 5 lines every time I'd have an error. Set status code, set error, add error message, so I just made little helpers to make my life easier, and I think all those little things are handy when you have them in a shared module of some kind. So my thing was before, we could always extend that base handler we had with my own base handler and override stuff, and that's what my approach was when we released the module. But it's going to be baked into ColdBox 6 now, so you can get to it. And he said a beta might be out as early as next week, though. So ColdBox 6 beta coming soon.
What this is really, to a degree, ColdBox becoming a bit more opinionated, which I don't think is a bad thing. ColdBox has been accused by some people in our community of being overly opinionated, and the hilarious irony is it's actually like literally the opposite. Some parts of ColdBox are like so open and inflexible. People are like, just tell me what to do, and we're like, do whatever you want. So this is like an optional thing. You don't have to use it, but it's like, if you want to use it, this is how you do it. This is what it looks like. It's kind of opinionated, but it's freaking so nice and easy. You'll love it. So I like this. I think it's kind of good to have some opinionated stuff that people can toggle on if they want. And it kind of locks them in a bit, but it reduces just tons of boilerplate. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the beta on that. And of course, you can always use the ColdBox bleeding edge by just typing install ColdBox at BE. That's always the case. So if you want to play with the snapshot builds right now, we don't make any promises that they work, but you can always test them.
Yep. It's definitely fun to play with that stuff. And yeah, that's the weird thing is whenever we do all these trainings, we're like, you can do it this way, you can do it that way. They're always like, well, how do you do it? Everyone wants to know, how do we do it? So that's why it's fun.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes people want to be told how to do it. Not always, but sometimes they don't care. They just have a project to get done, and we're like, just tell me what to do. Tell me what to copy and paste off Stack Overflow. How do I make this API work?
Yeah, you just got to lower your cognitive load. The more decisions you make, the harder your day is. So if you don't have to think about it, you just do it. Life is so much easier. Yeah. I mean, using the resourceful routes, it's like, okay, do I call it list? Do I call it index? No, I just call it the same thing every time. Do I call it create, update, delete, insert? Like which one am I using? Am I using CRUD or am I using? Yeah.
Well, John Farr said in the chat here that we want to be more predictable. I don't know. John said we don't want to be opinionated. I think we do, but maybe we're talking about the same thing. I think predictability kind of is the whole point of a framework. You look at a REST API, you know what the actions are going to be, you know what the methods are going to be, you know how it's going to work, because they all work the same. It's like every Ruby on Rails app. There's no question of what little, flourishes developer, C decided to add into their apps. So, that was sarcasm. But I still agree with it. It's just the predictability that provides the benefit. You know how ColdBox REST API is going to work, and you can understand it without having to dig into it. So that's really the benefit. I also like the what would Ortus do, WWOD. Can we get like bracelets or something with that? WWOD, what would Ortus do?
Yeah, Scott's saying he just wants to think an app into existence.
I hear Elon Musk is working on that.
How's it working for him?
I don't know.
Like his Cybertruck.
Once they get the robots built, that's going to take all of our jobs. I think the robots will just do it, won't they?
Yeah, probably, because they're the only ones that can leave the house anymore.
Yeah, the robots are the only ones not under quarantine. That's a good point. You know, the hotel we stayed at in San Diego, Gavin, when we were on site, and it had a little robot that would go up the elevator and carry food to your room.
Yep.
It started, man. The robots started.
Well, as long as you only touch the food and not the robot, because stuff can live on metal surfaces for.
Oh, you just ruined it, man.
Well, I was just gonna say,
the robot.
yeah, they're gonna be, delivering stuff. Just gotta make sure what you touch. But anyway, back to reality here.
Back to reality.
So,
oops, there goes gravity.
What's new in CommandBox 5? It looks like you got a screencast series coming our way.
I did. So I sat down like Friday and recorded 10 screencasts just all in a row. Boom, boom, boom. Just to give you a little sneak peek of what the kind of things that I'll be covering. I've got talking about get access tokens, Lucee extension management, tuning your servers, file globbing, some new commands, better examples of Fusion Reactor from the CLI, even demoing some of the Lucee Lite stuff. So I recorded a whole series of screencasts, and I've got them all set up and published, or they're all set up and set to auto-publish. So we're going to get a new screencast twice a week for the entirety of the next month. So Tuesday and Thursday, basically for the rest of the month of April, starting today, there'll be a screencast that drops, and you'll see the tweets come out. So keep your eye on that space. The one today is really kind of just an overview one of here's all the big changes in CommandBox 5. So I'm just talking about all the libraries that updated. I show some tricks to tell what version of Lucee you're on. So it's kind of the kickoff, and there'll be a new one in 2 days, and then the week after that as well.
Cool. So we'll share the link there, and but yeah, subscribe, and if you guys are subscribed to the podcast, you should see these ones flying out as well. So speaking of CommandBox screencasts, we have Matthew Clemente has been working hard. He's actually doing a live stream. It seems like it's every week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on a Wednesday, and he's been doing that the last 4 weeks, I think. So he's done 4 of them, and a couple of screencasts as well. So
he's also been finding bugs too. He's sent me like a stream of pull requests, which is great. He found like typos in my code. You know, I had arguments mistyped, and so I'm like, send them over. I can merge these all day long.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing, I guess. Get them fixed, get them early. But yeah, so he's got 4 of those and 2 screencasts up on his YouTube channel. But subscribe, and then that way you'll get notified when he goes live, and you can catch up on all his great content there too. So thanks, Matt, for sharing those, and we're definitely interested in seeing what else you got coming out. So he's probably getting ready for his Into the Box session, because he's doing some CommandBox goodness, right?
Probably. I'm busy counting my commits.
While Brad's doing his counting,
I'll
tell you about the next thing. Oh, okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out, I was looking at this yesterday. There's been 20 commits to CommandBox since I bumped the 5.0.1 release. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think 9 of them are someone other than me. So half of the commits in CommandBox so far for the next version have all been pull requests from other people, which I think is just awesome.
Yeah,
I'm getting lazy here. I don't even have to do any work. I just sit there and merge pull requests all day long. The community does the work for me. I got John Burquest. I've got Matthew Clemente. I've got Luis in here sending me stuff. This is living the dream.
Yeah, it's nice when the community starts really kicking together, and like you say, it's it's evolving, and it's based on their needs too. So you always get the good improvements too. So
yep.
Cool. And I see Charlie shared Matt's YouTube channel as well in the chat, so thanks for that.
Hey, YouTube let Charlie share a link.
We made
Oh,
him
that's
a
right.
moderator.
We made him a moderator.
Yep.
That's the only way
Charlie's
you can
finally
share
got
links.
privileges. Yay.
Got the power.
So next on the
Power of
list,
Grayskull.
we have a ContentBox CMS customer experience server that we put out. So ContentBox is now 8 years old. I can't believe it's been around that long, but that's our open source content management system built in ColdBox. It's basically a couple of ColdBox modules inside of ColdBox that make ContentBox work. And we're trying to ramp up and really get moving on our next set of development. We've been a little busy with all these client projects lately, to be honest, and we're trying to get back in and make some big improvements in ContentBox. So we want to know, what you like, what you think we could improve, etc. So we have a blog post out about that, and there's a link to a Google form so we can get some information.
ContentBox was originally going to be called BlogBox. I always like that name. BlogBox. BlogBox. How fast can you say it?
Well, there's so many other ContentBox things out now, it's kind of sad. I don't know if there's blog boxes out there as well or not, but I know the hashtag for ContentBox is fought after pretty badly.
Yeah, on Twitter, there's a lot of ContentBox stuff. There's some like Bitcoin mining software, I think. There's a handful of things that use the word ContentBox. We actually have it trademarked, but within like the market of blogging software. So, other people have other things called ContentBox that are like completely unrelated to blogging. So,
yep.
CMS.
Okay. Now we have an upcoming Adobe webinar, April 9th. Alicia is going to be talking about the journey through the Adobe ColdFusion performance monitoring tool. So if you guys want to register for that, there's a link to go register. We'll share that. But basically, it's all demos. So if you guys haven't seen the performance monitoring tool, maybe you guys are using Fusion Reactor and want to see what Adobe has to offer, then definitely go check that out. I said it'd be a good session, and no slides, start to finish, all demos. So you should be able to get in there and ask some questions if you got them as well. So.
And Charlie just answered a question I had asked last week in the chat. I had asked if the performance monitoring tool, maybe you had asked, somebody had asked if it was only for enterprise, and Charlie says the answer is no. So that's good.
John Farrar just said, I can see through Brad's face. He must have had a green screen moment.
The parts of my face that are greasy and reflective get confused with the bright parts of my green screen, so I'm slightly translucent today, depending on how I turn.
Yeah. Okay, and in case you missed it, Alicia had a presentation on the microservices architecture on the 25th. We can't find the recording for that yet, so hopefully they'll be releasing that shortly. But yeah, so if anybody knows it, please share it and tag CFML and ColdFusion so we can find that and share that with everybody too. So I didn't attend that one, but I know that she presented it previously and it got a lot of good response.
Have you reached out to Alicia to ask her about it?
Nope, I did not have time today to do that. So I will do that because I know Rick Chief gave one the previous week and I haven't seen the recording for that yet either.
I'm asking her right now.
Also last week we had a Fusion Reactor webinar where Brad was actually on there as a special guest. So you were pretty busy last Tuesday. Or that was Wednesday. Anyway. But,
it was the day after our Modernize or Die.
Yep, and we have the link for that one right here. So that was actually streamed live on YouTube, and the link is still live so you can go back and watch the replay. So sharing that right now.
Yeah, that was great. Mikey and Charlie went through all the long, complicated manual ways to install Fusion Reactor, and I showed how to do it in like one command.
Yeah, one of our clients said, I am so glad we use Fusion Reactor with CommandBox, because after seeing that video, it was so painful. I'm just so glad that you guys built that module. And it is. I used to use it with previous clients and everything the old-fashioned way, and it was just so tedious. People say, well, what do we do before CommandBox? It's like, life was so different, but even all these little things we're building, I just can't imagine life without them, so.
That's our goal, get you hooked, and then...
Oh, Charlie said his was a one-line Docker run command, so he's taking a little offense.
With a multi-line sed command that I bet nobody could actually explain what the regular expression does.
We're a little biased. That's okay. We admit it.
I like sed. I built the sed into CommandBox. Most people don't know, but sed stands for stream editor. Random fact of the day. Most people don't even know what sed does. It's a big ugly thing in a bash script they just ignores. But That's what SET is to most people.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Next up on our list, we had another webinar last week. We actually had the CB Elasticsearch for Michael Bourne. So we have the recording up on our Vimeo page, but we also have the more webinars on our webinar page, ordersolutions.com. So if you've missed the last few, we'll be doing one a month this year. So if you guys did miss any, you can go grab them right there, but I'm sharing the link in the chat right now. So heard it went really well. So definitely a good session if you guys are using some, search in your SQL. You probably want to look at using CB Elasticsearch. It's a great tool, and you can really power up your apps pretty simply too. So good to know. And then just a reminder too, the State of the CF Union 2020 survey is out and out there, and we're trying to get more people to fill it out. Last time I heard it was just under 400 people had filled it out, but we need more. There's more than 400. There's like 3,400 in the Slack channel. So
yeah, we know you guys are out there. Where are you? Come take this survey.
Yep. So if you know someone that hides from social media and the podcasts and blogs and everything, please share it with them. Email your friends and make sure that they fill the survey out. So we want to know what's doing well and what we need to work on, and just seeing these trends over time is going to be a big deal. So I know Brad looks at it all the time to figure out what he wants to do.
I do look at it all the time. I print it out and just stick it on my wall and I stare at it during the day.
Okay, so next up is conferences. So
next up is a list of cancellations.
Yep. So Adobe CF Summit 2020 or East 2020 was canceled, and the post-conference specialist certification was canceled, as well as our pre-conference build secure MVC ColdFusion applications training. Into the Box 2020, as we mentioned, is now a virtual online conference. It's going to be taking place on the same 2 days, so May 7th and May 8th, Thursday, Friday, and sessions will be streamed live and recorded, so attendees can watch all of them later as well. The keynotes will be streamed live for free, and the tickets are $199, so we discounted them heavily since a lot of the costs are, lower, that we're not having to worry about the venue, etc. So that's cheaper than our package for video as well as last year. So we're trying to make it accessible and get as many people as we can there. So intothebox.org has tickets available now, and we're going to try and work on what we can to make it interactive for attendees as well, because networking is a big part of the conferences, and I'm going to really miss that this year. I know we have a lot of fun getting together with the Ortus team and the community, so we'll just have to have some open Zoom rooms for chit-chat while we have lunch and stuff like that. But we'll see what we can do to make that interactive. The previous Into the Box videos are on sale too, so if you guys didn't attend 2018 or 2019's, we have them for a package $9.99 per year. So if you want to buy them, they're available on Vimeo. So we have ITB 2019 and Into the Box 2018 as the on-demand package name, and you guys can grab them. Like I said, $9.99 for the whole conference. It's a pretty good deal, and there's a lot of great content there, and some of those same conference talks are, people still give at conferences, CF Summit, etc. as well. So good quality content. Don't miss out there. I can't believe that's already going to be 1 month away, so we're getting pretty close to it now. Now, I know I did have a question inside the chat about workshops. So workshops have been refunded and scheduled at later times to get everybody the opportunity to attend one or more workshops. We're basically just working to get basically all the conference sessions lined up, set up. A couple of the speakers that weren't able to make it because of travel, etc. Now we're reaching out to, so we're going to have some updates to the schedule. But once all that is taken care of and the conference is done, then we'll be working on scheduling the workshop. So we'll send out times and have people sign up and register for the workshops. So they will be a little bit after the conference. We're not sure exactly when, but we're hoping to give everybody an opportunity to do one or more workshops, because that's obviously the big complaint is when people go to these conferences, they want to do more than one workshop. That's why we went to 2 days, but now it's online, so we can do as many as you want. So we're still planning on offering the same workshops. We've got to check with the workshop trainer and get something scheduled. So we'll find out and we'll let you know as soon as we have that. Scott just said he bought all of the ITB videos, and he's watched probably 80% of them already. John asked, the workshop trainings going to be live online or in person? Well, obviously we can't do anything in person, but they'll be, live streamed, and then once everything recovers and we're able to travel again and all that, we'll, offer those as possible as well. So we'll be doing public training, so anyone can sign up, but if your company would like to do basically, just for their company, something specific just for them, we can do that as well. So let us know. We're flexible with that, but we are going to offer some workshops in a sort of a public scheduled setup as well.
Charlie has a cool link to some Redgate webinars or trainings. This is pretty cool.
Oh, really?
I'm a big fan of Redgate. If you do anything with SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server, Redgate's tooling is hecka expensive, but it's really, really good. Their SQL Compare and Data Compare is like bread and butter for a SQL Server DBA. And even their SQL Source Control product is pretty cool. In fact, I have someone I'm going to send this link to right now.
That's very cool. Yeah, well, that's pretty cool. So we'll add that to the list for everybody else watching a 3-day online conference. Pretty nice.
I love the Redgate tools. As long as you can afford the $8 billion price tag, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're actually really good. They're great. They just like to charge money for it. Yep.
Unfortunately, sometimes you gotta get what you pay for, and I've heard nothing but great things about their stuff too. So, okay, so another conference we just got announcement. So DockerCon Live is going to be May 28th, just a 1-day conference. It's going digital with theCUBE, which I'm not sure what that is, but they've designed a 1-day conference that it's going to be free and completely online. You'll hear from speakers with live interviews with theCUBE. I think they're a podcast, to be honest. But you hang out with the Docker experts on the live hallway track and watch recorded sessions while chatting live with the speakers.
Usually when you hear cube in relation to Docker, it's spelled with a K and it stands for Kubernetes, but this is spelled with a C. So
yep.
Thecube.net. Where's their about page? What is this? Some kind of, it's just a podcast.
Yeah, so it sounds like what they're doing, they're pre-recording all their actual sessions, but they're chatting live with you, and they'll be doing 3 simultaneous streaming channels, so you can jump between them, and basically experience Docker your way. So
theCUBE's just a giant technology podcast. Holy cow! I'm looking at the images on their about page, and their studio looks like a freaking television studio, dude. We need this. This needs to be our goal right here. This massive studio full of hundreds of thousands of dollars of expensive cameras and lights. That's how Modernize or Die needs to be.
Well, we might need to up our budget goals there.
Yeah, get that Patreon page going, people. Daddy needs toys.
Yeah, because we can't even afford the lights that don't make you translucent right now.
Yeah.
Okay, CF Summit West and CF Camp at this time are still to be announced. We're still waiting, obviously, with the outbreak. Once medically able to do so again, we'll be able to find out more about that. We basically heard that Adobe should be doing a developer week. Charlie's in the chat if he knows any date and times, but I haven't heard anything publicly announced yet. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I'm afraid those CF Camp and CF Summit West are going to get to a point where once the country opens back up, it's going to be effectively too late to get it planned with, because normally, conferences are advertising months at a time. So interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. I know that a lot of them are going to look to just do some type of online variation, but it's just not the same. But then again, everyone's doing that. Same. There's quite a few JavaScript ones popping up here and there. Frontend Masters is, known for their stuff as well, and a couple other ones are popping up. So plenty out there. If you guys have any good ones too, let us know, and we'll share them on the podcast as well. Okay, well, we're up to blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. So we have quite a few here. Surprisingly, I was actually thought there'd be more, and then it just kept going. So we had a bit of a quiet couple of days, but Ben Adele is definitely keeping us busy. So the first one from Ben, exploring the power of multiple cursors and selections in Sublime Text 3. So he's still using Sublime Text. We keep talking about VS Code, and he says he might change one day, but he still loves it.
Well, it's
And
funny, if you look at the first comment he left, he has this big disclaimer that says, to be clear, I'm not intending to say Sublime Text is the best editor, because, you can't mention an IDE without getting like 50 like recommendations or like, you got to try XYZ. So yeah, he basically said he assumes most editors have functionality like this. Here's a demo of how it works in Sublime.
yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. The first thing someone said on Twitter when he posted about it was VS Code does this too. But I thought it'd be kind of interesting
sure.
that, like I've used it a little bit in VS Code and in Sublime Text as well. But he went through a big selection of, of functionality. So I'm actually curious to see if we could do something similar in VS Code. So I'm gonna have to play with it. And to be honest, I don't use them very often. I mean, unless I've got a really long piece of JSON that I'm working with or something. But
Well, you mean the multiple cursor?
yeah, I use it sometimes, but not as much as some people. And I should probably get better at it. So I'm going to go back and see if VS Code
I've never
can do
gotten
this.
into it, but every time I see somebody do it, I'm like, crap, I need to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, it's easy to do, but I'm always worried that I'm going to mess it up and then make a mess of everything at the same time. But,
Yeah.
I mean, for some stuff, it's okay, but I'm like, well, I know how to do the way I'm doing. And like I say, if it's a really big amount of changes, then that's different. So, but yeah, definitely working with JSON and big structs and everything, I definitely see the positives in it. So, but that was a pretty cool post. And then Fusion Reactor had a blog post. And they talked about the 5 things you should check every day to ensure your application health.
Number 4 will astound you. Oh, wait, sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, the with that post,
Right. Here's the 2 reads. Set up crash protection. Check daily, weekly, monthly reports. The reports are actually pretty good. They send you. Review historical archive metrics. Recognize performance hotspots from the Relations tab. That's a good idea. See resource details quickly to gauge the JVM health. I think most people send these daily, weekly, monthly report emails into like their trash can, or they just mark them red or something. But there's actually a lot of really good statistics in the weekly emails that Fusion Reactor sends you. If you stop and look at them, you'll be like, wow, it captures a lot of data in there.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you get a lot of data all the time, people just assume everything's fine, and that's where the email notifications for like crash protection, etc. Those things are definitely important. But yeah, so that's actually before they even list the 5. The first thing is, like Scott said, you got to install it, but then also set up that email notification. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot harder. But those are one-off things, and then every day you do those 5 other things. But definitely a good little resource there. So another one was a tweet from Nerd Vision, and I just heard that name for the first time the other day. So I was wondering if anybody else knows anything about it.
I was the one talking about it.
Wow. Yeah, because I saw a tweet that they said, find bugs faster in Adobe ColdFusion, free, simple, collaborative debugging Nerd Vision. And I was like, what?
You know who that is, right?
No.
It's the Fusion Reactor guys. That's Integral. Nerd Vision's their new product that they were releasing at DevNexus this year.
That's where I heard it. Okay, sorry.
They didn't have support for ColdFusion, however, yet. It was on their roadmap. So I'm curious if they've added that. Yeah, Charlie says no, but the fact that they're tweeting about it makes me wonder. I mean, like I said, I know they're working on it. They support like Python, Node, and Java, I believe, right now.
Yeah. Well, I knew I'd heard the name somewhere, but I couldn't remember where. Sorry, I should have listened to my podcast.
So Nerd Vision is made by the same guys that make Fusion Reactor. Integral is the name of the company. We all just call them Fusion Reactor. It's kind of like if you took the production debugger aspect of Fusion Reactor Ultimate and you ripped out just that functionality, so it wasn't the full APM, but it's still like a Java agent kind of thing. You add on to your JVM args. But instead of being a little local thing, it's all pushed to like a cloud kind of concept where you go to a website and it pushes all your debugging information out. So everyone on your team can all have this little Java agent, or for Python and Node, it works a bit differently, but it still plugs into the core engine. And you can basically do kind of like event snapshots, sort of debugging of your application, and it even ties it into your local source code. But they did it in a really cool way where you don't have to send your source code out to their site. It ties it all together so it's safe and secure. But Yeah, I mean, I've been looking forward to the ColdFusion support coming on this. So I think it's going to be pretty cool. And one of the coolest things is there's a free tier. People complain a lot about Fusion Reactor. We're like, oh, we want a free version, right? But if they did that, nobody would ever pay for anything. The Nerd Vision actually has a free tier, and it's pretty cheap pricing wise. So I think that'll probably have a lot lower barrier to entry to get people playing with it. Anyway, I don't know. I'm pretty excited about Nerd Vision. And yeah, I was talking about it when I came back from DevNexus. I just haven't been able to play with it yet in ColdFusion because that's still kind of on the roadmap. But I'm looking through their site right now, trying to see if they have any announcements regarding ColdFusion.
Yeah, I looked quickly. I didn't see anything. I just saw the Java, Python, etc., and I was like, So that's what I thought I would share. So interesting.
I will. I'll holler at Mikey and ask him if this is supported yet, or if it was just a marketing team getting excited.
Yep. Okay, so Benadell also had another blog post about putting debug comments in your SQL statements to make Fusion Reactor queries tracing more effective. And so he said for years he's been advocating this about putting debug statements in, and he's mentioned, I've seen it over the years too. And so it was kind of interesting to see that, they show up in Fusion Reactor and everything as well, which you kind of assume. But let's just have a quick look here. So interesting that, he basically puts this debug in. It's just a comment. And then in Fusion Reactor itself, you'll see it pop up right there. So he gives it some idea of where the code is while it's running the query itself. So, put the service and the function so he can sort of trace and everything. I thought it was an interesting approach, but it's just kind of, something I've never done. I've never seen anyone do it either, but I mean, it would be pretty useful to figure out where the heck this query is running. So, that's kind of nice. But he did mention that with ORMs, like in other languages, whatever, they sometimes offer the ability to do that as well. So I'm curious if there's an easy way to do that with ORM as well, passing some type of debug statement or whatnot as well. But it's pretty cool. If you guys are having trouble tracing something down, you want to know where that SQL's running from, maybe add a debug comment. So
it's pretty cool. So I just heard back from Mikey. I'm messaging him right now. He said that he thinks they released Adobe ColdFusion support yesterday for Nerd Vision, but not Lucee server yet. So hot off the presses, folks.
Super hot. It's good to have a direct line to the right people. So we had another blog post from Ben about deleting data from a table using an inner join delete query in MySQL. So this was a pretty good one. I actually did this last week, and I don't know if I read the blog post first or read it right after, but I was actually doing the same thing. I was doing a bunch of cleanup, and sometimes your queries get kind of crazy if you don't use the inner join when doing an update or a delete. And so he works through it, sort of tells you how to sort of go from one to the other. But he has a pretty good example there of when you might want to use it, etc. So again, another useful blog post there. And it's really got like a whole SQL book that you could probably just copy paste from his blog post here. Doing a lot of work with his SQL lately. So,
all right, the official word on the ColdFusion support for Nerd Vision is it just came out yesterday. Chill your boots. So I have a feeling there'll be more information coming out soon. The tweet was probably a teaser, but there you go.
Pretty cool. Okay, we also we shared the blog post from Lucee announcing those 5.3.5 and the 5.3.4 that we mentioned earlier. We also had a blog from Pete Freitag, so it's kind of a blog and a request here. So talking about 6 ways to stay connected with other CFML developers. So he talked about the CFML Slack channel. You should also add the Box Team Slack channel because we've got our very own one for Ortus products. So we get one little teeny tiny channel at the CFML Slack channel, and if you sneeze, all the messages disappear because there's only 10,000 comments before they all disappear. So we have our own Box Team channel. We should have him add that there. But he did mention our podcast, the CFLI podcast, CFML News email, which is what the newsletter he publishes, the Adobe ColdFusion community portal, ColdFusion bloggers is another way to find out some of the stuff. So it's pretty good information. Obviously, we try and give you all the people all the blogs and videos coming out and whatever. But there's a lot of people on Twitter too. CFML and ColdFusion are the hashtags most people follow there. So definitely recommend doing that as well. But yeah, for those of you that aren't familiar with some of these are great resources. So thanks,
I just messaged Pete, asked him to add the Box Team Slack. Look at this. It's like live coding or live messaging.
Yep. Okay, and so Ben Adele had another one about array sort. So I think you're talking about this. Hey, look at that old one with Matt Gifford. Wow, old photo. Okay, so this one, he was talking about array sort operator must return int size result in CFML.
This is basically a follow-up to his post last week.
Yeah, because he does a subtraction ordering. So usually he takes something and subtracts it from the other and then returns it. If it's negative, you sort it one way. If it's positive, you sort it the other way. If it's 0, then it's the same. And so he always just did negative subtraction, and I guess he was doing milliseconds, and then with a really old post, then it makes a really big number. And
yeah, I think he actually updated the title of the post, because I'm the one who pointed out to him like why it was actually erroring. Because what you typically see in JavaScript is if you're just sorting numbers, your sort comparator, it's hard to say, callback will just subtract them like you said, and you either get a negative number, a positive number, or 0. And generally speaking, that always works.
Yeah.
In the docs for ColdFusion, both Adobe and Lucee technically say you're supposed to send back -1, 0, or 1. But the reality is any negative integer or positive integer will pretty much also work. But yeah, Ben was using these like epoch timestamps, which were like in the billions or trillions as far as like, the number of digits in it. And then, behind the scenes, both Adobe and Lucee had the same problem where they try to cast it into a strict integer at the Java level, and then it blows up. So the workaround was just to pass an explicit 1 or -1. But I had honestly never run into this, but it was a nice little catch. I actually put in a ticket for Adobe and for Lucee, both for them to support, a double or some kind of larger, format, just so this case, well, technically, if his code was incorrect, it's like, well, it would have been nice if it worked. I have a feeling JavaScript probably has some looser stuff in the background that allows it to work as well. Yeah, that was a good little catch on Ben's part.
Yep, and we have another one from Ben, another ancient picture here. But he's now using UTF-8MB4 to enable emoji in his comments. And this one hits hard for us because we've been fighting this ForgeBox issue with emojis for a while. But something in here which was interesting is obviously using that type. But in his insert, he actually sets the name and the collation inside right before he does his insert, Brad. So I'm like, because I know we've been changing the types and migrating out tables and messing with drivers, and we keep having these weird issues. But maybe we have to, set it in line for the version of MySQL we have or something. But yeah, so now Eric's been like, we need emoji support. I can't live without emojis, and Luis is the same way. So a good little post there from Ben on that too. So if you want, you can actually use emojis in his comments now on his blog, which is important to a lot of people. Okay. So next we have one from Rakshiv about the normal GUI based installers. So as we mentioned before, please give them your feedback if you have any feedback to give there. We also have the video tweet from Matthew Clemente on his latest CommandBox video, so we've also talked about that earlier. And this one I thought was an interesting take. So another one by Ben Adele, but this one's more of an opinion here. Tag islands and CF script-based tags bring perfection to ColdFusion and Lucee CFML 5.3.4.
Yeah, that one was funny. The tag islands. Oops. Yeah, that was funny. The tag islands came out a little while ago. I remember Gert first introducing those years ago, probably, and I forget what version the ticket was actually completed in. I was never a super big fan of it because most of the use cases of putting tags in script felt dirty, and if I really wanted to do that, I would just include a CFM file. And typically with an MVC framework, you never run across those scenarios. The few exceptions being, like the CF query tag or something in a service. But Ben has some pretty kind of compelling use cases of it. where he has just regular old script code and just slams these nice little snippets of tags in the middle of it, which obviously are very readable for long-time ColdFusion developers. And in many cases, there's a good argument to be made that a CF query tag is just more readable sometimes in tags than script. But
yeah, and he says he thinks it was released in 5.3.1 tag islands. I know that
sounds about right.
Yeah, and so. And I like this comment here. To be clear, I'm not saying that Lucee CFML is flawless, but he's basically saying now with with loops on the CF base script based syntax and stuff and tag islands, he says CF script feels perfect. But yeah, he just made some good points about a lot of the things that we've used to people writing scripts like I have to go over here or do this with a tag or. And just some other little things like script was missing certain functionality and everything, but now, like basically says with these two things, it's like he just dropped the last Infinity Stone into his personal Infinity Gauntlet. So,
so John Farrar mentioned that Lucee doesn't support stored procs. That's not correct. You can use the CF stored proc tag in script in Lucee and it works fine. What Lucee doesn't support is the little kind of crummy ColdFusion 9 era CFC placeholder, like the new query. They support that one, but they never implemented the little new stored proc equivalent. If you dig around on the internet, you'll find someone that made a CFC that basically does the same thing, and you can drop it in and use it. I never really used the CFC wrappers, so I never cared about it. I ran into it once when converting a code base and used it in a few places. I always just use the tag and script syntax for Lucee, so it's just stored proc and then the attributes just like you would the CF stored proc tag. But if you prefer the tag-based version of stored procs, well, there you go, tag and script, and you can just use them like you're used to.
Cool. So, yeah, definitely like that blog post. I read through it, and I know that you mentioned it's practically limitless how many tag CF script tag basically inception you can have, right? Did someone actually test that? Because I think we should test it.
The tag and script? Misha said he tested it, and somebody else might have tested it. However, I have already found a parsing issue with tags and script. I forget what it is. I know I logged a ticket for it. It's in the Lucee bug tracker. But other than that, it seems to work pretty good.
Yeah, I was wondering how many levels deep can we get it before it blows up or we blow up. So, but anyway, so last blog post of the week here. Zach Spitzer announced the new function, Inspect Templates, in Lucee 5.3.6. So this one's pretty interesting. For those of you who have looked at the Lucee settings, there's options for when you're checking your files to have Inspect Templates set to never, which is best performance, or check once, which is good performance, etc. And these days with Docker, most people don't change their files. It's not a big deal. But if you have an older server that you're either working in production on or you're pushing code, those settings can really make a big difference. So this Inspect Templates allows you basically to run that in your code somewhere, and then it flags to say, hey, I want you to recompile all the code in the cache. Do it again. And so if you have some type of deploy process or whatever, and you want to make sure everything's compiled, you could hit a file that had that Inspect Templates. It could flag it, say, redo the cache, so they have to go log into Lucee admin and, clear the template cache. So it's a nice little feature. So he was talking about that, which is pretty cool. So I know that one definitely bit me in the past where I'm changing files and, like things aren't working like I thought. I'm like, oh, they're cached. That's why. Okay. So next we have Find a Job section. So getcfmljobs.com still has 18 listings available right now from 17 companies across 15 locations in 5 countries. We have 3 this week. So we have a full-time ColdFusion developer in Oklahoma City. And we have a full-time senior ColdFusion developer in Washington, D.C. And we have a full-time ColdFusion developer in Oakland, California. So 3 different jobs available there, and there's, like I said, 18 listed currently on the Get CFML Jobs website. And then we actually had another one that was posted on Twitter from Faradeh, Farredeh, an immediate 6-month ColdFusion developer in Reston, Virginia. Must have strong SQL storage procedure skills on site, but will be remote until COVID-19 is clear, obviously.
That one.
So yeah, if you guys are looking for something, that might be a good thing. So if you want to email them, the emails and the Twitter, and we'll share that in the show notes there. So there we are for jobs. If anyone has anything available, please let us know and we can add it to the list.
All right. ForgeBox module of the week.
Yeah.
What do you got?
So we have one, the CF barcode for J. So this is a wraparound barbecue, which is a Java barcode printing library. And didn't you say Travis Peters just released this one just recently?
Yeah, I was helping him like last night get the box.json all figured out so it would install correctly.
Yeah, so basically returns an image, so you can basically generate it. Got different types. You can do code 128, etc. And basically with Wirebox you get an instance of it. And it's got a couple of nice little DSL helpers for you. So looks like a pretty straightforward library. But yeah, I've messed with barcodes before. Hopefully this one works better than the ones that we had. We had all sorts of things. Yeah, and Scott asked if it does hot dogs too, if it's wrapping around barbecue.
Only barbecue.
What? Barcode 4J? Interesting. So yeah, so that's our module of the week. So it's the latest one on ForgeBox today. So cool. Thanks for sharing, Travis. And Scott asked if it does QR codes. I don't know, actually. Someone should look that up and tell us in the chat so we can let you guys know. Okay, so our VS Code hints, tips, and tricks of the week. This one is actually one that George Murphy recommended. And so this is not actually just an extension, it's a whole process. So the VS Code remote development setup allows you to use containers, remote machines, or Windows subsystem for Linux as a full-featured development environment. So the cool thing is it doesn't have to have any source code on your machine to get these benefits. And so there's a couple of different extensions or whatever that you install. And then basically your local code, VS Code here, has the UI, the extension, and then it basically connects into a remote OS, which could be a container or another machine.
So the remote OS is something that you're in charge of spinning up and configuring?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these systems now...
So instead of opening up like a remote desktop window onto a VM, you would just open up VS Code, and you would have everything you needed inside of VS Code, your terminals, your source code, but it would all just be as though you were running VS Code on the remote machine then?
Yeah, I mean, it's... That's
a really kind of a cool idea, like, geez.
Yeah, I mean, it's for those people that need all those libraries installed, all the tools and everything to run. Instead of having to install all that, you just basically have VS Code point to one. I mean, it could be, if you're running Mac, you need to have a Mac for certain things, people can basically...
I assume it runs over a VPN. Because, like, we have clients that I have to, in order to, it's always government, right? I have to connect to a VPN, which is ridiculous. And then I have to, like, RDP into remote, VM. And then I have to open up my editor inside of that VM through the stupid RDP window, and then I can develop. It'd be kind of interesting if I could just connect to the VPN and open up VS Code locally and have it just be editing what was remote.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is people talk about, containers, nice way to not have to worry about other dependencies and everything, and same thing remotely. Like, sometimes you need certain libraries or certain versions of JREs or other stuff, and this way you don't need to worry about it. And I mean, the remote development pack basically includes SSH tools, the containers, and the WSL, and they've got some nice tutorials to get you up and running with it quickly as well. So I've used some of this for just SSHing into another machine just to check stuff on a dev server and whatnot. But yeah, the whole idea of just having basically a container that you can say, here, just use this container for your development process, and now all the stuff they need is in there. They don't need to worry about configuring CF format and linters and all the npm tools you need for this or that. It's just already there, and you just basically spin it up and connect it. And then when you're done,
just when I think, like, what could they possibly think of next for an IDE? Don't IDEs do everything we could ever think of? And somebody comes up with something like this, I'm like, that's really clever. Why didn't I think of that? I could be a millionaire right now.
Yeah, I mean, because right now I know, like, a lot of people that we work with, they have all those AWS workstations. So from home, they RDP into their machine, and I have to help them install all the stuff they need. And they have to get it all set up, and if they're smart, they'll take a snapshot. Right? It's all part of VS Code right now. You install a couple of extensions.
Who pays for all this stuff?
Microsoft. They own NPM now. They own GitHub. They're taking over the world.
I mean, that's the benefit, I guess, of a big company, running software like this, is they can throw resources at building like amazing stuff that, a single person wouldn't be able just to do for free. But I love how they've kept VS Code extensible, though. Like VS Code has all this amazing stuff, but it's still not a closed box by any stretch of the imagination. It still feels very open source and extensible, but has all this free stuff. I don't know. I've been vaguely impressed with Microsoft as of late, just as far as them managing to not completely seem to screw up anything in regards to, GitHub and so far NPM. We'll see how that plays out. So
Microsoft's really changed a lot, and I listened to Scott Hanselman's, Hanselman Minutes, and for a long time, they've been doing things very differently. And if you've actually gone and looked at what they've done, Scott was employed. Works for Microsoft. He runs Mac at home, and he's done so forever, and he's got all sorts of different stuff, and they work from home, and they're doing a lot of great things, and one of his episodes talked about what changed at Microsoft, and him and a couple other people came on at the same time, and they were all basically like, well, if we come on, this is the way we're doing it, and they said we want you to, and it's been the last 15 years has been a different Microsoft, but only lately have people really caught up.
Developers. That is pretty good. I mean, Charlie had a good point. Everybody wants stuff for free. So apparently, even if I invented it, I wouldn't become a millionaire because nobody would pay for it. And that's what's tricky. Adobe's, positioned like CF Builder as a paid IDE, but it's really hard to compete with some of the amazing, free IDEs. Even, Sublime was paid, but it's like VS Code comes out and it's like free and people just flock to it. So it's really hard sometimes to have a product like that you just, sell inherently. So it's an interesting day and age,
Yeah. I mean, it's really a side effect of them. I mean, because Microsoft has so many developers that need to do their job. To make their job easier, they give them the tools to make their job easier, and they just say, oh, everybody else can use it too.
And I mean, Ortus does the same thing, just on a much smaller scale.
Like CommandBox.
We make money on the ecosystem and consulting and things like that, and then we give away a lot of development hours for free. It's just VS Code. You look at like the amount of man hours that go into all the functionality. It's orders of magnitude more impressive the scope of the project. But Microsoft has orders of magnitude more money to deal with. So I think ideally it works out well for everyone.
Yeah, and Charlie did say CF Builder is free, albeit with more features if you pay for it. He says,
that is a very good point. And I've used the free version of CF Builder for years. So you have a little pop up when you start it, and then after that you have a significant amount of functionality. I actually don't even know what features I'm not getting because whatever they are, I've never used them.
Yeah, I know that some of the security analysis tools and stuff, I believe, requires you to have a server with a license, but I don't know if the CF Builder has it anyway. But
occasionally, I'll fat finger a shortcut key in CF Builder, and it'll pop up and say this feature is not available in the free version, and I don't even know what the shortcut was I hit, and I don't even know what feature I was trying to invoke. I just kind of shrug and go, "Oh, whoops, that was the wrong shortcut," and I move on with my day. But yes, sure, that is a good point. The CF Builder is a free version.
And he said hoping Adobe will back VS Code somehow, and I heard that they were going to do that, and I thought I heard last year's roadshows, not even this year's roadshow. So
yes, there's been talk of VS Code. I'm not sure what I can say about it because I'm not sure what conversations I'm thinking of that happened inside the pre-release or happened in a private email chain. So I won't say anything about it. But yes, there has been grumblings of CS Code. I say grumblings sarcastically. There has been talk of embracing VS Code, but I don't know what it would look like. And to date, it does not appear that Adobe would simply pick up Matthew Brown's, he's the Sake, or I can never pronounce his username. It appears that they would not just pick that up and just push it or support it. They would probably be rebuilding something from scratch. But outside of that, I don't know what that looks like or what they're thinking about, at least not in any way that I think I could share. But I am very interested in that because I would love to see Adobe push, a platform that already has a whole lot of support in the community. But the time will tell. We'll see where that goes in regards to what Adobe says.
Yeah, I'm curious too. Well, hopefully we'll get an announcement about that sometime. But VS Code is pretty cool, and if you're not sold on your current IDE developer experience, definitely check it out. It's got lots of great options. We love just the extensibility of it, and there's always new cool stuff that you can find. And that's why we started this whole segment, was because every time I went to a training or a conference, everyone was like, "Show me what extensions you have." Like, it was the most asked question. I was like, okay, so let's just do it every week.
Oh, you know what we need, Gavin? We need an extension for VS Code that allows you to compare your extensions with somebody else. Like, I don't know how it would work, but you scan
Actually,
a QR
it wouldn't
code.
be that hard, to be honest.
You hold your phones together with NFC. Something happens, and it's like you have these extensions that this guy doesn't have, and vice versa. And you're like, oh, what? I don't know. I'm just saying that this needs to be built. We need to figure this out.
It wouldn't be that hard considering everything's JSON based inside of it anyway. Like, it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, the hardest part would be figuring out how you would connect their computer. But yeah, I'm sure there's some API for all of that information.
Yeah, pretty cool. Okay, we're at that time of the week. Basically, we're going to thank all our Patreon supporters, and our new Patreon supporter, Sean Odin. So he's actually speaking at ITB this year. He's doing the database one, right?
Possibly, I would have to look.
Set him up with a softball pitch, and he drops it.
Sorry, I'm busy trying to help people with CF migrations on Slack right now.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Sean is the latest Patreon supporter, and we thank him for that. And thanks to everybody who's supporting us. We have packages from as little as $10 a month to really help, and everything does help. As we said, our first goal for Patreon is to fully fund the podcast and the time that we take on and off the camera here. And
until such a date that our income looks like Microsoft's. In which case, we'll suspend Patreon and we'll just do whatever we want. But until then...
Yep, unfortunately. But
look, we have little placeholder images for people now, little Superman capes.
Very cool. So yeah, so we have a lot of open source initiatives, and our podcasts are one of them. And the Patreon support, once we meet those goals, it goes to things like CommandBox and ForgeBox and ColdBox and all those other tools that like we said, like Microsoft, we try and give away for free, but sometimes you got to pay the bills. So we have Patreon packages available on patreon.com/AutoSolutions, and you can even get Luis in a box if you pay enough on our Patreon.
we ship him with ice packs so he stays fresh.
Yeah. That and little bits of coffee, right? Because he likes his espresso too. So thank you, Andrew Davis, Brian White, Calvin Stetton, Dali, Dan Card, Daniel Garcia, David Bellinger, Didier Lesnicki, Don Bellamy, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Jan Yannick, Jeremy Adams, John Farrar, Jordan Clark, Joseph Lamery, Katie Holmes, Laxma Tirohadi, Matthew Clemente, Mingo Hagen, Richard Herbert, Samuel Knowlton, Sean Odin, Scott Steinbeck, VJ, and Yogesh Mester. So, yeah, we really appreciate all of your help and all of your support, everybody. It really does go a long way. And thanks to all our listeners and watchers as well. We do appreciate it, and we like the chat we get as we produce this live every week on YouTube. So, thank you, everybody, for making the show as good as it is. A couple more episodes will be episode 50, Brad.
All right, we should have something special for episode 50. Yep. I don't know what, but I'm just the idea, guys. Somebody else needs to think up what it's going to be.
Well, tune in and find out. So next week, episode 48, same time. Catch you all then. Have a good week.
All right, bye-bye, guys.
Bye. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernize.Die.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.